Today I finally started doing stuff, creating stuff, making stuff. I loved it. No more planning, I'm doing it. So today was the first official day, I guess, in my 12-week project to get closer to my dream, my goal of being a stand-up comedian. So sounds insane to say it out loud like that. But anyway, I'm using this card method to plan the project. If I sound weird, by the way, and if my nose is really red, I think I'm getting a cold. My nose is kind of stuck. Sorry. And in this method, you take the card for the day, and behind the card for the day are all your actions for that day. So you don't have to come up with a to-do list. The to-do list is whatever cards are behind your day, and then you take them out and you do them. And then as you do them, the daily ones, what I've done is I've put basically like a mini calendar on the back, so if when you do something, you take that day off so that you know how many days you did the daily thing, and then once you've done it, or if you skip it, that's fine, you just make a note of it and then you move it to the next day. Same thing for the weekly ones, you move them to the next week. And then for the one-off actions, I write on the back the date that I've done it, and if I skip it, if I move it to a day in the future, it's not a problem, but I do make a note on the back. I will make a note on the back because today I didn't skip anything, but if I do, I would make a note on the back, skipped on such and such date. And the idea is that because I'm moving all the done cards to the done pile at the back, eventually when I review what I've done in a week, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, when I review what I've done, I can see what worked and what didn't. Why was one card skipped multiple times? Is it because of the content of the card? Is it because I kept on scheduling too many things for one day, etc., etc.? The thing I did today that I enjoyed the most was the daily task of writing 10 jokes, because obviously it was actually creative and I was actually doing the thing that I want to do, make jokes. And so I did a mixture of writing them down and speaking out loud to myself until I found the joke. So yeah, that was really nice, and I actually wrote 11 jokes because I'm an overachiever like that. I think if for 12 weeks I did nothing else but write 10 jokes every day, that would already be a success. That would already get so many ideas down and I would have so much material after the 12 weeks. Obviously, the majority of the jokes are not going to be great or usable, but even in the bad ones, there could be a spark of an idea of something I find funny or interesting setup or whatever. And just the action of getting out 10 jokes every day, I mean, obviously, maybe today was quote unquote easier because I haven't been doing it already. Maybe in a couple of days I'll have run out of ideas, I don't know. But for today it was really fun. Then today's one-off action was to create a kind of trailer of my previous experiences as a sort of visual proof to myself that I can do it. So I made that. I kind of had thought I may share it here, but actually I don't know, I don't feel quite ready, but I'll share some clips from it with no sound, and I'll, you know, the funniest thing ever, I'll analyze them with you live. So instead of hearing my jokes, you're going to hear me break stuff down that you can't watch. You're welcome, I guess. So I had some observations looking at my previous work. So I have done stand-up a couple of times in the past. I've also done some sketch comedy, and I've also done monologues that I wrote myself and performed in front of people, which were funny. And looking back at the stuff that I've done, I kind of have some observations, and I'm going to try and compliment sandwich myself. Compliment sandwich is when you say a compliment and then a criticism and then another compliment, and you're kind of sandwiching the criticism between two compliments. I really have only one clear-cut compliment, so I'm going to basically reuse that for both slices of the bread, and I kind of have two slight, not criticisms, but like critical things to say. So first bread slice is that I think I have a good stage presence and persona. I think I have a nice, an interesting, fun energy. I like it. Then first filling of the sandwich is my accent. So I know that I have an accent. I've worked very hard to try and hide the fact that I have an accent. And I think perhaps as a result, I have found that my on-stage speaking sometimes is this weird mix of my own accent and what I think a proper performance accent is. And actually the result is a lot less clear than how I normally talk. Especially, I think, when I am talking in a heightened way, if I'm talking loudly or I'm putting emphasis on something, weirdly enough, that's actually where my articulation slips. And so there were some bits when I was, especially because it's a recording, obviously, and there's audience noises and so on, a couple of times where I wasn't really sure. Like, I mean, I knew what I was saying because it's me and I remember, but I felt like my articulation wasn't very clear. And it was kind of hard to realize because I think even though I have an accent, the way that I've sort of told myself that it's still fine to have the accent, which, by the way, it's obviously fine to have an accent in real life. I just mean on stage. The way that I kind of told myself that even though I have been unable to change my accent, and I've tried, believe me, I've really, really tried. I took loads of classes. I've really, really tried one-to-one coaching with really, really good people. But anyway, I told myself that at least it's not a comprehension issue. People can understand what I'm saying at all times. So it's not really a problem, especially if you're doing stand-up where you're just playing a version of yourself most of the time. So, I understand sometimes it's an issue with acting if your character doesn't have the same background as you, but for stand-up, it's no issue. And actually, sometimes I am unclear, especially on stage, more so than I am in these videos where I'm talking sort of conversationally. It's a comprehension problem, especially because in stand-up, especially at the start, I would probably be looking at doing 5 minutes sets maximum. 5 minutes is kind of the standard for open mic or something like that. Could be even shorter. So there is really no time for the audience to get used to how I talk. So I kind of have to get them on board straight away. They have to understand me straight away. That's just something to keep in mind. It wasn't really a massive issue. Like 90% of the time, I think I spoke clearly. And then the second sandwich filling, really, it's a neutral thing. It's not really a criticism. It's just something to be aware of. That by looking back at my solo stuff, of which there isn't much, but it tends to be quite, I don't know if dark is the right word. It has been described as dark, but it's not dark as in like twisted topics or something like that. It's just quite, I don't know, there is some undercurrent of, I don't want to say negativity exactly, but sort of criticism, sort of exposing my own flaws. And I do think it's funny. And I think there is a bit of a contrast with how I present myself as being quite harmless looking and then making slightly darker jokes. I think it is funny, but it's just something to be aware of because it kind of affects the energy of the comedy when a lot of the jokes are about more negative feelings or subjects. And then for the final slice of bread, I'll sort of basically rephrase the first slice of bread. But something I've noticed watching the videos back is that it feels like I am able to get the audience on my side quite quickly. I feel like in all of the videos, the audience response, they are on board, like they are along for the ride with me. They get what I'm about, and they I mean, like me doesn't sound like the right word, but they are on board. I've managed to get them on board, and I think that's a good thing. And the second task was to do something called the portfolio of proof, which is, I believe, something I heard from a YouTuber called Charlotte Morabito, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that name. But the portfolio of proof is something, basically somewhere where you put together proof from your past that you are able to do something that you're setting out to do, and it's part of the work that you can do on your identity. So basically, it was very silly for me to, it wasn't silly, but it felt silly to do because it was kind of like pulling together quotes for, the back of the book where you pull together good reviews and good quotes from other people. It was kind of like that from things that I've done in the past that are sort of stand-up adjacent, and I kind of made a document with encouraging quotes from people, the things that people have said to me in the past that are proof that I can do stand-up. It's very embarrassing to talk about. I mean, it's not, you know what I mean. I'm not sure I should be embarrassed, but I am. Okay. And that's all. It was a great first day. I am filled with hope. I am fired up. We'll see how that pans out. But for today, it was great. And if nothing else, I have 10 and a half new jokes. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.